What happens when China and the Philippines have a war? Imagine waking up to the news that China and the Philippines are at war. It sounds scary, right? But let's try to understand what could happen if this became a reality. The conflict might start over disputed islands in the South China Sea. Both China and the Philippines claim these islands, which are rich in resources like fish and oil. If talks and negotiations fail, tensions could rise, leading to a military clash. Once war begins, the immediate impact would be felt by people living in both countries. There would be fear and uncertainty as families worrying about their loved ones. Military forces would be mobilized, and the skies and seas around the disputed islands would become battlegrounds. War would disrupt trade between the two countries and with other nations. Ships might avoid the conflict zone, leading to shortages of goods. Prices of everyday items like food and fuel could skyrocket. The economies of both China and the Philippines would suffer, causing hardship for ordinary people. Other countries might get involved too. The United States has a defense treaty with the Philippines, which means it could step in to help. On the other hand, China has strong ties with countries like Russia. This could turn a regional conflict into a larger, more dangerous situation. War always brings suffering. People would lose their homes, and many might become refugees, fleeing to safer areas. Hospitals would struggle to care for the injured. Humanitarian aid would be desperately needed, but delivering it could be difficult in a war zone. The natural beauty of the South China Sea would also be at risk. War could lead to oil spills, destruction of coral reefs, and harm to marine life. These environmental damages could take years or even decades to repair. Despite the horrors of war, history shows that conflicts eventually end. Peace talks would likely resume, with international mediators helping both sides to negotiate. Rebuilding would be a long and challenging process, but it's possible with cooperation and goodwill. A war between China and the Philippines would be devastating for both nations and the world. The best way to avoid such a disaster is through dialogue and peaceful negotiation. Understanding and respecting each other's claims and finding a fair solution is the only way to ensure a stable and prosperous future for all. War might sound like a thrilling story, but in reality, it brings pain and destruction. Peace is always the better path.